Good morning. um, oh, sorry I'm late. Haven't even brushed my hair this morning. Got milk, celery, eggs, chicken, yogurt, oranges. Lots of oranges, so I guess I'll be making orange marmalade pretty soon. Uh, so it was for a good reason, but I am rather late this morning. However, since I'm the boss, I won't have my pay docked, and my pay is zero anyway. What, Tora? Are you going to say hi to your adoring fans? Come here. Ah, right there. She's a little rascal this morning. Last night, she fought me for the best spot on the bed, didn't you? Every time I got up, for any reason, she was right there, but she wouldn't stay on the bed with me. No, that isn't the deal. It's her bed. But when I woke up this morning, there she was, right beside me. Ah, is that better? You got your treats? Anyway, got all kinds of goodies. So I let the seniors know that I won't be needing the prepared meals this week. They give out fully cooked restaurant meals uh, twice a week, no, three times. But it wouldn't be fair to take those when I just got a big box of food. And besides, lately they've been running out. There are so many people in need. Hang on a minute. I gotta do this off camera. Oh, life is a beach and I forgot my towel. Uh, in case you didn't hear that or it wasn't clear. Ah, Tora, the rocking chair is mine. Great Granny's rocking chair is mine. That's where I sit at my computer, remember? Um, so, in case it didn't come out clearly, life is a beach and I forgot my towel. Mm, my nose is being mean to me this morning. It is helpful if I put my heating pad on Tora's chair. She's more likely to sit in her own chair. Cats do love warm spots. In other news, I've got, uh, well, for teenagers in the late 60s, early 70s, the thing to have was a P code. Like the Navy, it started with the real thing, and then uh, fashion designers started making them. I never got one because they were so expensive. I found one at a yard sale for $5, so I'll have to show it to you. There, it's over here. Where's my pizza? Oh, I'm sorry, I moved it. It's on Great Granny's rocking chair. It's a pea coat. Let's take off this jacket. $5. Of course, in the 60s, $5 was a lot of money. You could watch a movie in the theater and buy a candy bar. Pea coat. This is not the navy kind. It has little satins around the sleeves and a satin lining, but it is just as warm. Oh, it's so warm and fashionable, stylish even. Well, this morning I had planned to talk about Galileo, Galilei. Scientists, well, atheists who happen to be scientists like to tell you that the Inquisition went after Galileo for claiming that the Earth goes around the sun. No, that isn't why. He insulted the Pope. When the Pope insisted that official church doctrine was that the sun goes around the Earth, and until and unless scientists could provide evidence to convince them otherwise, that was church doctrine. And Galileo responded basically by calling the Pope stupid and foolish. You just don't do that. Not in the 1600s. So it wasn't really about the ideas of Copernicus, who said that the Earth went around the sun. Let me just check the dates of Copernicus. I forgot to do that. Oh, he was early 1500s, born in the late 1400s. So we're talking 100 years later. Here's Galileo. In the early 1600s, the Inquisition forced him to recant. They never tortured him, they just spoke to him. And Galileo recanted because, as the Pope pointed out, he did not have good evidence for the theory of Copernicus that the Earth goes around the sun. And in fact, astronomers and mathematicians had been using that theory based on the ease of doing the math to calculate orbits. With the geocentric model, in which the Earth is at the center, all the planets and the sun, really everything but the moon, which does go around the Earth, had orbits that needed to be calculated with these things called epicycles. Big old round orbit around the Earth, but at every so often in regularly spaced places, a little circle on top of the big circle. And the math was just killer. I had 4 years of math in high school, and I couldn't do it. My brain rebelled against it. Oh, and then there's Giordano Bruno, burned at the stake in 1600 after being held by the Inquisition for 6 years. They really did not want to do it. And supposedly it was because Bruno supported the theory of Copernicus that the Earth goes around the sun. Well, no. Bruno was charged with sorcery. He was practicing high magic, and it wouldn't have been such a big deal if he had not been ordained as a Catholic priest. So Bruno left his order, gave up his ordination, his priesthood, and toured Europe and England, giving lectures on high magic and promoting his idea, his doctrine, his theory that Jesus was not the Son of God, but simply a talented magician. So the Catholic Inquisition held Bruno in Rome, or I think it was really in Venice, somewhere in Italy, for 6 years before they finally gave up. Bruno would not recant, and he continued practicing magic in his cell, which really upset the priests and monks and, the Pope, before they finally came to a verdict in his trial for sorcery. I gotta see what kind of truck is out front. I'll be right back. Well, it's just a delivery truck, but it sounded like an ambulance or fire engine. Anyway, so Bruno would not recant. He kept practicing magic. After 6 years, they finally burned him at the stake. Not for saying that the earth goes around the sun, but for heresy. Not only practicing magic, but claiming that Jesus was just a talented musician. Why do I want to say musician? It's magician. And once again, it would not have been such a big deal if Bruno had not been a Catholic priest. And if the theory of Copernicus had been such a problem, they would have gone over after Johannes Kepler, an astronomer living in the same time period as Giordano Bruno and Galileo Galilei. They didn't. They didn't bother. He wasn't a priest. I don't think he was a Catholic. Oh, and by the way, he didn't practice magic. Bruno, on the other hand, was so out there that he had been excommunicated by the Calvinists and the Lutherans, and he never even joined their churches. He was way out there. Of course, today we don't burn people at the stake, at least not in um, the first world countries. But they get barred from the rail. They aren't allowed to take communion. And in some cases, they aren't even allowed to step inside the church buildings. Never seen a delivery truck like that before. It's huge, but it says it delivers medical supplies. I don't know who it's for. That truck outside. Boy, it's a big truck. It's actually parked halfway in the street because it's so wide. They have no choice. So anyway, if some atheist scientist hits you with Galileo, hey, not only was he not burned at the stake, Galileo was never tortured. He was put under house arrest for the rest of his life, but he lived in relative luxury. He wasn't in prison, he was at home. And it was really for insulting the Pope. You just don't call the Pope a stupid fool. And he insulted several of the Pope's relatives in the same uh, way. Yeah, 6 years is a long time. They didn't really want to burn Bruno at the stake, but you know, the problem with magic is that it does work. It isn't just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, although there is that. Yeah, it works, but you don't know what kind of entities you're contacting when you do that. He wasn't like a stage magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat or revealing a pretty lady inside a cabinet. He was practicing high magic, occult, and esoteric, even. I'm rationing my cigarettes today. I have only half a pack and they have to last. They cost too much, but I got a light one. So, what else was I planning to discuss today? Well, atheism. Um, I admit that I cannot prove to you that Jesus is the Son of God, that he rose from the dead, um, that he's coming back. I can't prove it to you, but I am satisfied on the evidence that I have found in my research. And on the other hand, an atheist cannot prove to anybody that God does not exist. They're simply following Epicurus, who said, well, there really isn't any God. There aren't any gods, but if there are, they're far away and have nothing to do with us. Or they're following the Platonists, the followers of Plato, and they're arguing against Plato. When you die, your spirit is freed from the chains of your physical body and goes to heaven. Oh, you evil computer. Come on. Just when I get to the good stuff, it decides that my connection is unstable. What's up with that? Um, so, Plato says that when you die, your spirit, your soul, is freed from the chains of your physical body and goes to heaven. That is not what the Bible says. Um, Now, the Jewish, and I think this is Talmudic, I don't see it in the Old Testament, but their belief is that you will be resurrected with your restored body. That's why they don't sanction cremation. You cannot have your ashes buried in a Jewish cemetery. Although I don't see a whole lot of difference. In the time of Jesus, they would leave the body in a tomb to rot, and when there was nothing left but bones, they would put the bones in an ossuary, a stone box, usually stone, made to preserve your bones. So, and when you're buried whole in a coffin, yeah, your flesh might take longer to decompose, especially if you're oh, what's the word? Um, they pump chemicals into your body to prevent rotting. Anyway, you're still going to rot away and nothing will be left but bones. The difference in cremation is that your flesh decomposes faster and they have to grind up your bones into a powder to put them in the box with your ashes. It's the same thing to my mind, but they did believe and they did practice preserving the body, at least the bones, because in the end, whenever and wherever that occurs, you will be resurrected, and your spirit or soul and your body are reunited, restored, and incorruptible. They'll never grow old, die, and rot again. And Christianity believes something like that, except that many believers are misled into believing Plato's doctrine that the soul, you are your soul, and your body is a prison that has you trapped in this world. Cave who is tied to his chair and can only see the shadows on the wall and not the real objects that cast those shadows. I'm content to wait and find out. Um, as I am with the idea of picture being carried away when we meet Jesus in the sky, in the clouds. Well, when Jesus returns, when Christ returns, yeah, we'll meet him in the air. We'll go out to meet the king who is returning. And he's king of the whole world, not just Jerusalem and not just Israel. But I'm not certain that that means we'll stay in the air. I don't know. Anyway, I got started late because I got this great big box the church was giving away. There's celery and yogurt and milk and oranges and eggs and chicken legs and hot dogs. Huh, Tora, you don't eat any of that, do you? Tora's weird. Other cats will eat table scraps, as long as they're like meat, like chicken or. Tora might eat a bite or two, but she doesn't really want it the way other cats are fiending for it. All right, guys. My good girls haven't had their treats this morning because I got a ride and flew off to the church to get the box of food. Here you go. Oh, and I got yogurt. Well, Tora, I'm not up, so if you want some treats, you have to come here. Sweetie got treats. She's a good girl. Yeah. Well, anyway, oh, there she is. Now she realizes that she ain't getting treats till she comes here. There you go, good girl. So, I don't know. History, what we know about history is only what other people tell us. We were not there. But we had this thing called the Enlightenment. Really began in the 1700s, but they were looking back at the great thinkers of the 1600s. Can't think of a single name now. They're on the tip of my brain. The philosophers and scientists and so forth. What I remember from history class, world history in the junior college, is that the buildings let in more light. They had more windows and bigger windows. This was especially true in the Victorian age, about, uh, when Queen Victoria was queen. I guess about 1850 to the early first decade of the 1900s. Oh, Jan saw the video about the hollow moon. Well, anyway, it wasn't really enlightening. It was a coup by self proclaimed scientists that they were the priests of all knowledge of the world, and if you were not a scientist, you just had nothing to say. And if you bothered to speak up and you didn't have scientific credentials, you were mocked, ridiculed, and shoved aside. And so nowadays, if you don't have a piled higher and deeper, that's a doctorate, a PhD, or at least a master's, which isn't nearly as good, you have nothing to say about science. You have to have peer reviewed articles published in journals that are so expensive that most people never get to see the articles in them. Hey, Tora, don't claw my chair. And in most cases, not only are the authors not paid, they often must pay the journal to publish their articles if they pass the peer review process, in which other PhD scientists read their article and decide whether it's worth publishing. So I protest. Did Aristotle have a PhD? Did Socrates? Of course, he was a philosopher, and we think of that as someone who explores logic, ethics, and spirituality, but really, philosophers were the original scientists. And they usually went to some sort of school, maybe an academy, maybe a cult of some god or goddess. But we didn't have universities in which each discipline had its own school. Scientists, even in the 1600s, were people who wanted to know more about the world in which we live. Amateurs, even in like Thomas Edison, did not need a college education, let alone a doctoral degree from a university. They simply had to have curiosity and the means to pursue the things that interested them. Every one of us is a scientist from birth to death. We explore the world in which we live. But the so called Enlightenment developed this priesthood of scientists who went to at least college, if not university. and got the um, certificates and credentials that made them the priests of all knowledge. Well, I'll tell you, I can't prove that I love my cat, but I believe that I do. I am not sure whether she loves me, but I think she does. She purrs. Now, the hollow moon, which Jan brought up in the chat room, it has been decades. Of course, most people didn't get the news until recently, but even in the late 70s, in a college class with a credentialed professor of astronomy who got to see the journals and get news directly from NASA, yeah, I heard that the moon rings like a bell. And it's got to be hollow. Now, the latest theory is that it's like a Swiss cheese. In other words, not completely hollow inside, but just having a lot of holes, a lot of empty spaces. And they're finding the same thing on the moon of Mars that we call Phobos, this roughly cigar shaped moon. Deimos, the other moon, is smaller, and I haven't heard much about it. But the prevailing is that they are both captured asteroids. But it is possible that Phobos is a derelict spaceship that just got covered with all kinds of debris, maybe while passing through the asteroid belt. Let's see, isn't it biblical that sometimes the least likely are sometimes the ones that are gifted with the greatest gifts from God? Oswald hopes that they don't ban smoking because Phobos is cigar shaped. Okay, well, there's much about this world that we don't know. Um, we do know that at least Russians, if not Americans, have found warm places in Antarctica, near the South Pole, that there are actually some hot springs. They aren't as hot as the ones at Yellowstone, but there's liquid water. It isn't frozen. Uh, and some hollow earth people think that there's a hole near the South Pole where you can enter the underground civilization. Well, I have no doubt that there are all kinds of caves and caverns and tunnels under the surface of the earth. I mean, credentialed archaeologists have explored some of them in South and Central America. They appear to be man made, but who knows? And they usually find entrances inside pyramids or tombs. I don't know. It's entirely possible that there is some sort of civilization living in caves and caverns and tunnels, and they might or might not be human. And of course, there's all the military tunnels in the United States, some of which are under the White House, some of which are under Denver, Colorado. And I've been trying to put the word out since the at least the 90s, if not the 80s. The the Taos hum in Taos, New Mexico, people were hearing a strange humming sound, and it was loud. It shook their their buildings, and it kept them awake at night and drove them crazy. Well, that must have been because somebody was tunneling using heavy machinery to build tunnels. We get something like that around here because our streets are narrow. It's a mountain community. Sometimes when a large semi truck is traveling around, we get this hum, but we see the truck so we know what it is, where it came from, and it goes away when the semi truck is gone. They're usually delivering groceries or auto parts or hardware or lumber to local shops. Like the truck that was outside this morning when I began this podcast. They were delivering some kind of medical supplies to a home nearby. Or in some cases, a large truck will stop and they'll read their map because they're lost. Never trust your GPS in the mountains. It it'll tell you that there's a road where there isn't, or it'll tell you there isn't a road where there is. Let's see, all through southern France and Spain there are Neolithic caves. Yeah, France and Spain, especially Spain, are where they find the most evidence of Neanderthal. And even though I don't have the credentials, my master's degree is in English literature, not science. I propose the theory that Neanderthal were simply an isolated tribe of modern humans who were highly inbred because they were isolated, possibly during the Ice Age, and that eventually they met other humans, interbred, traveled as the world warmed up. They moved across Europe into Asia and all maybe even Africa, at least northern Africa. But originally they were simply a clan or tribe of people who were cut off from the rest of the world. And some scientists argue that they were not actually human because their tool making remained the same. They did not develop new and better tools the way Homo sapiens did. Their weapons were crude and they didn't innovate. Well, horse pucky. We know of, at least in recent times, 1800s to the present, we know of isolated tribes, for example, on islands, where they used and in Africa and Asia, all over the world, really, and even in America with our native First Nations, Native Americans, whatever you want to call them. They use the same technology as their ancient ancestors without changes. So I call horse pucky on Neanderthal not being fully human. For one thing, they apparently had bigger brains than ours. If that's a sign of intelligence, which it might or might not be, pretty good clue. Yeah, they were funny looking. They were heavy and they had brow ridges and so forth. And the more these DNA tests keep finding that we share DNA with Neanderthal, the more convinced I become that they were fully human. Caves in the Balkans, yeah. There's caves all over the world. There's caves in California, and there's famous caves like Carlsbad Caverns. And forgive me, I forgot which state Carlsbad is in. I think it's New Mexico, but there's a town called Carlsbad in California near San Diego. Yep, New Mexico. But there's a little Carlsbad Caverns near San Diego in Southern California. It isn't the same. Carlsbad Caverns, I've only seen pictures. I never get to go anywhere, but it is gorgeous. Enlightenment is horsepucky. Yeah, we had more windows and bigger windows and better windows, so we had more light inside our buildings. But intellectually, socially, and culturally, it was simply the new elite taking over from the old elite. And most of them were actually both. They were nobility or at least wealthy, came from the good families and went to university and got their credentials and became scientists. And for some reason, economics is considered a science. Paper for economics once. One of those at least 10 pages with references and citations and all that. So I asked my dad, who was a CPA, an accountant, what do I do? And he said, just use a lot of big words and don't say anything. So that's what I did. And I got an A. Economists are wrong at least as often as the weather reports. You'll see, they showed me this statistics actually in the astronomy class to point out that we cannot trust statistics. These weather reporters, some of them were 90% accurate. But if you look closely, well, this guy is in the New Mexico desert, and it almost never rains. So he's likely to be right when he says sunny, no rain. But if you look at all the times when he said it was going to rain, he was always wrong. But he was 90% accurate. I'll look at the weather report on my phone, which always seems weird to me, but that's what we do nowadays. And it'll say sunny 70 degrees. I guess they don't look out the window, or maybe they don't have windows. But when I look outside my window, it's pouring rain. And if I open the door, I can tell that it's really cold. But they continue telling me it's sunny and 70 degrees. Just checking my phone, it almost needs a charge. You're supposed to wait until it gets down to 20%. Now, if you're really OCD, more so than I am, you won't plug it in until it's at exactly 20. and you'll get upset if it goes to 19 before you get it plugged in. Well, sometimes I plug it in at 22%. Um, and sometimes I forget and it goes down to 10 and the phone complains and says, hey, plug me in. Let's see, what did I drop? Looks okay. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Yeah. Oh, good old John. I've got John Adams on my mind. That isn't the guy. The economist. The laissez-faire economist. Um, his, his name was on the tip of my brain a minute ago. Locke. Locke. John Locke. Before I could type in a search term, it came to me. John Locke. Oh, just leave the economy alone. It'll take care of itself. Tell that to the King or Queen of England. Tell that to the IRS. Adam Smith. Yeah, Adam Smith too. I don't know why I want John Locke, but Adam Smith is a better example. Yeah, John Locke was widely regarded as one of the most influential Enlightenment thinkers, father of liberalism. He's way back in 1600. So Adam Smith is a better example. John Locke was a supporter of the British imperial mission to build an empire. Locke talked about the social contract, kind of inspired the American Revolution with the idea that sometimes revolution is necessary if your government breaks that contract. But Adam Smith is a better example of laissez-faire economics. I think he never met a robber baron. The economy does not take care of itself. Okay, Adam Smith is 1700s, 100 years after John Locke. Well, anyway, many of our wealthy American families began as robber barons. They lied, cheated, stole, beat up their competitors, burned down their competitors' buildings, beat up their competitors' workers. Yeah, like Getty and Rockefeller. Um, Thomas Edison stole most of his patents. He really robbed, oh, come on, Nikola Tesla. Tesla parted ways with Edison. He couldn't stand him. Edison insisted on direct current, which could not provide electricity more than about 3 miles from the generator, power plant to a house or business. And Edison tried to kill the alternating current, which we have now because it's superior, by using it to kill animals. Stray dogs, in one case, an elephant. Mark Blythe, a Scottish economist. Hmm. Well, anyway, um, yeah, right. Just leave the economy alone and let the robber barons commit all these crimes to eliminate competition. Nowadays, they either file lawsuits or just buy up small companies. So now, famous Amos cookies used to be so good until a big corporation bought out the company. Now instead of butter, they're made with shortening, like Crisco, and they just are not the same. But on the one hand, famous Amos could not meet the demand. His cookies were so good that everybody wanted them. And on the other hand, okay, I gotta find out the name of the corporations. The corporation that bought him out. Ferrero. Ferrero. Kellogg's, the makers of Rice Krispies and cornflakes. They're made in a factory. Well, I'm sure famous Amos had to eventually set up a factory instead of, homemade, but he kept the ingredients high quality. And now, even the chocolate isn't the same in their chocolate chip cookies. But he couldn't meet the demand. And they didn't squish him, they paid him off, which is a little bit better than burning down his kitchen and beating up his workers. Well, on butter replacements, Oswald, it began when Napoleon offered a prize for someone to invent a butter substitute because the army marches on its stomach and butter went bad too fast. They couldn't take it with them on long marches. And someone came up with what we might call oleo or margarine. I'm sure that what passes for margarine now is not the same, but it's close. But yeah, I still remember being told that butter is bad for you. Use margarine. You'll be healthier. And guess what? After decades of research, don't eat margarine. That's crap. It'll make you sick. Get real butter. Or what I sometimes do, I'll use cheese instead, or I'll take plain yogurt and put it in a cheesecloth bag and let the liquid drip out overnight and then squeeze it to get more liquid out, and it'll be spreadable, kind of like butter. Sometimes the what I want, but better than Crisco. I don't know whether margarine is banned. Let's see. Google is my friend. Okay, where is margarine banned? Until 52 years ago, it was against the law to buy margarine in Wisconsin. Well, that makes sense. They're known for their dairies with really good butter and cheese. Yeah, they were protecting their dairy farmers. Why did Canada ban margarine? In the 1870s, oh, yeah, not only Canada, but here in the Depression, they banned putting yellow food coloring in margarine. So Mom told me and Granny told me how their margarine would include a little packet of orange coloring because margarine was white. Um, and they weren't allowed to give you yellow margarine because it looked like butter, but you could mix it up with the food coloring at home. The World Health Organization, what was the date on this? In 2018, May 14, 2018. Well, this is trans fats, but I guess margarine. It, yeah, the World Health Organization recommends that you not use margarine, but they aren't really thrilled with butter. Okay, curds and whey is what we call cottage cheese, although most of the whey, the liquid, is taken off. YouTube isn't sure that I should let you post trans fats. Oh, I guess trans has another meaning. Ah, well, I don't know. Google isn't very helpful. But there are times when what I have is margarine. It does a little better if you're frying something. It doesn't burn as fast as butter, but I really want butter. The transgender thing is trendy. When I joined the Women's Center in college in like 78 or so, we were inclusive of men and women, gay, straight, whatever, didn't matter. We were building a sort of community that would be helpful, support each other, and support others. Now, everybody has one narrow little definition of what they're for. That's divisive. Frankly, I don't care who sleeps with you or what your gender is or what religion you believe. You can be let's see, a Buddhist, a Taoist, a Shinto, um, Hindu. What do they have there? I guess it's called Hindu. A Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, an atheist, an agnostic. Doesn't matter. You're a human being. At least I hope you are. There are those who believe that aliens walk among us. I kind of lean toward that there are people from other planets walking around looking just like us. I do know that many of the wealthy and powerful elite do believe that they are not human, that they're better, they're superior. That's how we ended up with all those European monarchs with genetic defects. They wouldn't marry commoners, and the highest of the elite, the royals, wouldn't even marry nobility who were not noble enough. And so we have the Habsburgs, the Austrian line, who ended up with monarchs all over, and most famously in Castile in Spain. Oh dear, I forget which monarch it was, but he had a hair lip. King Ferdinand, myth now, used to be established history. King Ferdinand of Spain had a lisp, and his countrymen imitated him as a form of respect, which led to the development of the Spanish lisp. But the historians and linguists refuted this claim, saying there's no evidence. Well, I do know that I learned Mexican Spanish in junior high, not lisp, but the Castilians did. It would be something like Castilian, Castile. RH blood. Oh, Oswald, don't even start on RH negative blood. I'm RH negative. Yeah, divide and conquer is happening so slowly, Jan. Hi, Vegan. Um, my cursor popped out of the box while I was typing. There we go. Vegan is Jimmy, I think. Anyway, I've been on for an hour and I have nothing really beyond. Um, Galileo was not tried for saying the Earth went around the sun. He was tried for insulting the Pope and a few of the Pope's relatives. They made him recant the going around the sun thing because that was what the debate was about when he called the Pope and a few of his relatives stupid and foolish. Giordano Bruno was not burned at, well, he was burned at the stake, not for saying that the earth goes around the sun, but for practicing high magic and denying the divinity of Christ, which was a big deal because he had been a Catholic priest. AB negative. Jan, you have very rare blood, and you better hope you never need a transfusion because it's very difficult to get blood that won't just kill you. Now, I'm A negative, so I cannot accept any positive blood because I'm negative. Same with you. You're AB negative. You cannot accept any positive blood. Tora, don't claw my peacoat, please. You want to say hi to your fans? Come here. Boring fans. Isn't she a cutie? She hates this. Say hi. Look at the kitty in the TV. Look it. Yeah. Yeah, your mommy's in there too. You be good. Don't claw my stuff. All right. When she says hi to her adoring fans, she gets treats. There, here you go. RH, by the way, has to do with rhesus monkeys. RH negative blood gave a reaction that looked like something they were getting with rhesus monkey blood, but the RH factor label is misleading. It has nothing to do with monkeys. We don't know where the negative blood came from. Oh, poor Jan. They couldn't give you a transfusion. They probably could have come up with O negative, but it's very rare. You really needed AB negative. I hope I never need a transfusion. Oh, the weather is somewhat warmer. We had one day that was unpleasantly hot. I think it was 80. But when you live through a winter up here, 80 is like, oh, I'm melting. Oh, the vaccine, Jan. I got the first Pfizer shot. I had an allergic reaction, so I couldn't take the second one. AstraZeneca? I don't know. From what I've seen, though, I don't want Johnson and Johnson. I don't think the shots are as dangerous as the panic promoters are saying, but they are experimental, and we are the guinea pigs. And there is a slight chance of having a very severe reaction that doesn't go away very soon. It can be a long term problem. The biggest problem with the Johnson and Johnson is blood clots, which is why I don't want that. Even though I suffer from chronic cytopenic bleeding. In other words, my blood does not clot properly. If I get a little scratch, it bleeds like crazy. Skin from just ordinary hard and bruise myself, it's just like my capillaries burst and my blood does not clot easily. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7. I can have another cigarette. If I can light it. They didn't bother Kepler at all, and he had the same theory. The Earth goes around the sun. Yeah, Bruno was burned at the stake for practicing high magic and denying that Christ was divine, which once again would not have been such a big deal if he had not been a Catholic priest. Oh, John, yeah, you can't travel without the shot now. Is that the deal? Jan, as far as transfusion, they can usually give you plasma. Even if they can't give you whole blood. And another workaround is just a saline solution to bulk up your blood by adding fluids. Oh, Bruno is really something. I'm going to have to do more research on him. Well, I have to fly to Denver in 2022. So I don't know what I'm going to do about the vaccination thing. I can't take a chance on a second Pfizer shot. They won't take your blood, Jan? I wonder why. Tora, quit clawing my chair. I'll pound you flat. Well, actually, I'll get out the squirt bottle of water. You leave my chair alone. I gotta cover for the other chair, and she isn't interested in clawing the cover. So when the cover for this chair arrives, I hope it has the same effect. I'm not sure what they do now for people who can't get a transfusion, but I do know they used to bulk up the fluids if they had nothing else. If they couldn't get plasma, then they use a saline solution, a sterile saline. The thing is, no matter how little blood you have, they want it to circulate. And if there isn't enough, your veins collapse. Your arteries probably won't. They're stronger. Their walls are got muscles in them and so forth. They wouldn't store your blood in advance, huh? That sucks, Jan. Let me fill my water. Um, my granny was AB negative, and she had to have surgery. I think it was a hip replacement. So everyone in the family gave blood ahead of time. And even though it wasn't the right blood type, she got credit for it, which increased her access to the AB negative, which was in short supply. And of course, she wanted to give her own blood in her 80s, and they let her give 1 unit, which is about a pint. It's really, I think it's really a liter. No, a half a liter, something like that. But they underestimated the possibility of things going wrong. Typical. Like when I went in to the doctor's thing, well, I was 30 to 35 pounds underweight. I wanted to gain weight. All she wanted to do was give me a flu shot. And when I said no, she was done with me. Uh, Referred me to a nutritionist. Hey, clawing the chair again. Um, so that didn't help much. Wouldn't even screen for various possible infections in my intestinal tract, which turned out to be the problem, by the way. I did kind of have a suspicion because I'd had some nasty antibiotics when I had a kidney infection that nearly killed me. I actually went to the emergency room. Uh, don't want to talk about it. It's gross and disgusting, but it was very painful and life threatening. So, anyway, all the good bugs in my guts were killed, along with the bad ones. Anyway, I eventually solved it on my own, but I'm only very slowly gaining back the weight that I lost. Tired of telling people that I am a size 8. Oh no, you couldn't be. You must be a 6. Well, excuse me, but my bones didn't shrink. Yeah, the size 8 is a little loose on me, but I can't get into a size 6. And size 7 is impossible to find except in juniors, which is for like prepubescent or early teens. I'm a size 8, and if I have to wear a belt on my slacks, no big deal. Out, they're just slightly loose. Well, you have PayPal. I do have a GoFundMe. They take anything, but yeah, let me see. Yeah, vitamin D, and especially now because um, I um, internet decided to be slow. Okay, let's see. I'm looking for my GoFundMe link. What? Never mind. Well, that isn't it. Okay, let's see. Um, okay, that isn't gonna work. What the hiss? What have I done? Okay, I have no clue. Could have sworn that I emailed the link to myself. The where to open. Anyway, PayPal is awesome. Oh, poor Beacon got hacked, huh? Yeah, I have the GoFundMe for cigarettes and cat treats, but really it's for socking things away in an escrow account because my property taxes are not included in my mortgage. So I have to pay them, and they don't take monthly payments. The county insists that I pay twice a year. Okay. Um, so like I have to sock away $2,000 to pay in December and then another $2,000 to pay in April. I don't know why they aren't 6 months apart. I think that's the proper link, but let me check. No, I don't think that's it. Uh, it's this. Oh yeah, that is the same. Let me see. Oh, this is it. They don't make it easy to find a link to share. Anyway, the thing is that if I have $2,000 socked away to send to the county, I no longer qualify for food stamps and Medi-Cal. That's the California Medicaid to cover any medical bills that Medicare doesn't cover. I am beginning to get more gigs, writing gigs, so if I can get my income up to a the level where I can actually cover it all myself, I won't need food stamps and Medi-Cal. Yeah, well, they have a limit. If you have one penny over $2,000 in the bank, you don't qualify for any aid. But if I set up an escrow account for taxes, which is complicated and difficult, that should not count. Of course, I've had various social workers count it anyway, things like that. For example, if someone sent me a large amount to GoFundMe, which generally does not count toward my income, they'll see it in my bank statement, which I'm required to send to them twice a year, as if I could afford the paper and ink to print it out, and they'll count it, even though they aren't supposed to. Okay, book sales. Well, I know Amazon is evil, but it really is the best place. For me, they pay me more than others. What is this crap? No, 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 not there. Here. I'm looking for my Amazon authored page. They're being jerks. Their search engine is glitchy. Okay. Now, I don't want to search all the various things. I want to search books. Oh, whoops. Oh well. Here we go. Now I should be able to find the link to my author page. Here we go. You bozo. It won't take me there. Here we go. Follow the author. Come on. Here we go. I don't want Kindle. Okay. What the heck? I don't want the Kindle store. Well, I guess it's going to have to do. That isn't the link I wanted, but oh well. Oh, I'm in Amazon Smile. I have set up the Amazon Smile to donate to our local Mountain Arts Network because they encourage young people, kids, students to produce art. And it doesn't have to be great masterpieces where you become rich and famous. It's just that art is an important part of an education, and our schools have, over the years and decades, cut programs in art and music to the bone. I'm surprised school has a marching band. In fact, I believe they were in the Rose Parade once. Okay, I gotta recycle some coffee, but I'll be back, so hang in there. Dum-de-dum, dum-de-dum-de-dum, I'm coming. Slowly but surely hobbling along. Ah, there. Yeah, my internet sucks, especially across the pond. Sorry, Beacon. But it's the best I could get where I am, and it isn't very good. Yeah, I have a story in an anthology, a collection of stories called Mirror Maze. That's the book title. My story is The Mirror Cracked. I stole it from Agatha Christie, but this one is not a murder mystery. Anyway, um, this year's royalties, well, actually, I think it's every 6 months. But I got $4.81, or was it 83 cents? $4.83, which really isn't bad because these royalties will continue for as long as the book is in print. So it isn't much, but I get it every 6 months. Um, and I sold a story that I haven't finished writing, which is why I could pay my bills this month. I better finish writing it. I did send like progress reports with what I had done so far, and they love it. It's the ending that's getting to me. How do I get there from here? So I need to get back to finishing that story so I can write a story for the next installment, the next book after Mirror Maze. Let's see. I'm typing. Mirror Maze will be followed by Somniscope, as in dreaming, sleeping, scope. I have an idea of what to write for that. But I have to finish the other story first, and it's to do with Mary Magdalene and a mural that comes to life. Increasing my royalties won't hurt. Um, my income can be up to 1,400 a month, and right now I'm barely above 600. My Social Security is $599 a month. And as the prices for the things I need to buy keep doubling, when you account for the fact that there's less of the product in the package, the real inflation is more like 10 or 20 things that people really buy. But the government somehow figures out that it's really 1 or 2% inflation. Horse pucky. Look at my house. It's they call a tiny house. It won't even qualify for most mortgages because it's too small. It's 400 square feet, 20 by 20. Uh, it's estimated to be worth $135,000. My, it's really worth about 45, not 135, but real estate in this area is booming. People want to move up to the mountains. Yeah, I really did not want to write about Mary Magdalene, but oh yeah, Mary Magdalene in France. It's really possible that she went there. It's reasonable. I don't believe that she was carrying Jesus's child or had his daughter or whatever, the bloodline thing. Holy blood, holy grail. That's really a slipshod work. But she was a very special disciple. Jesus had woman disciples, and Mary Magdalene was their leader of all the women. Even after the crucifixion and resurrection, it's just that the men who wrote the Gospels weren't interested in the women. It was part of their culture that women were not important. You know, the Merovingian dynasty might very well have come from Mary Magdalene. I do know that they were killed off, but supposedly a loyal knight saved a child of the king, an infant or very small toddler. That's possible. You know how they became kings in France, in medieval France? Well, they killed the king and took over, plain and simple. Like Charlemagne's father, Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer. Charlemagne in English is Charles the Great. I don't know what was so great about him, but he was, in some cases, actually worshipped as a god. Um, and he had so many children and grandchildren that nearly everyone with any genetic ties to Europe is related to Charlemagne. The DNA experts said so. Several DNA experts. Oh, the Cathars. That was sick, killing them off just because they were weirdos who like to whip themselves doing penance. At one point, actually, Jan, there were two popes, one in Rome and one in France. I think Avignon. Okay, let's see. The Avalon, no. Avalon Captivity of the Pope. Britannica. Well, that's better than Wikipedia. Um, 1300s. Okay, let's get one from a college course study guide. The Pope moved to Avignon in the 1300s. Now, blah, blah. Interesting. Okay, now what I want is um, Knights Templar and Philip the Fair. Yeah, so Philip the Fair was a French king when the Pope was in Avignon. Uh, yeah, around the year 1300, he got rid of the Templars, and the Pope, who was living in France, didn't dare say anything against Philip. The Knights Templar were too good at their job. In the Holy Land, where they were maybe 50 to 150 strong, the Knights Templar did so well in battle that the other generals were jealous and actually at one point sent them on a suicide mission. And the Knights Templar obeyed and went into battle knowing they would, like with 99% certainty, they'd all die. Of course, there were a few who didn't go because they were somewhere else. So it didn't get rid of all of them. But they were obedient. They were faithful Catholic knights, and they were destroyed for being too good or too wealthy. Philip the Fair, the Fourth, King of France, owed the Knights Templar a lot of money, so of course he never had to pay it back because he killed them all, except the ones who managed to escape, primarily to Scotland, but also to Spain. A number of Templars ended up in Spain and Portugal. And in Portugal, the king just changed to another order. I think it was Knights of Christ. They were really the Templars, but since they were members of Knights of Christ, they didn't have to, the Inquisition couldn't get them. And interestingly, this is something Philip K. did point out. The Red Cross, the international organization that helps in disasters and provides blood for transfusions and other medical care, they have the wrong flag. They're supposed to be uh, based on the Knights Hospitaller, hence the name hospital, which was originally just monasteries would have hospitals where any poor travelers could get a bed for the night if they couldn't find an inn or they couldn't afford to pay for a bed in an inn. The hospitalers would give them a bed free or cheap. Well, anyway, the Knights Hospitaller had a cross really should have, but instead they have the Templar flag, the white flag with the red cross on it. Interesting. And what's the deal with Columbus's ships? His sails were white with red crosses. He was sailing with banned on pain of death. You were not to. display any Templar. The McClouds, Isle of Skye. I have ancestors, recent ancestors, who are. That'd be Dad's grandma. Oh, you evil machine. Connection is unstable. Um, Spot. Because I used up on what my outlet gets another 15 gigs, which turns out to be it's a little better now. Or Trump. Ah,